It all started when 50 Cent's own son publicly called him out for emotional neglect, exposing a side of the rap mogul that fans rarely see. This isn't just about money or child support. It's a deep-seated rift that has played out in front of the whole world. Despite 50's massive success and get-rich persona, his relationship with his eldest has become a cautionary tale of how fame and pride can completely dismantle a family dynamic. While 50 remains one of the most calculated figures in hip-hop, this personal drama shows that even the most untouchable icons have vulnerabilities that can't be fixed by a corporate deal or a social media post.
You thought you were special. You really thought you were special.
It reached a breaking point when Coily Ray's sister Toya publicly called out Benzino, accusing him of failing to step up and act like a real father. This situation goes beyond simple family disagreements. It's a direct critique of his maturity and his presence in his children's lives. Even with Benzino's long history in the industry, these personal accusations suggest a major disconnect behind the scenes. It highlights a recurring theme where public figures struggle to balance their outward persona with their actual responsibilities at home, proving that industry status doesn't always translate to being a solid parental figure.
Instead of being a father and just supporting from that side, you still want to be bitter.
Things took an even more personal turn when Boosie's own daughter went public, exposing exactly how he treated her behind closed doors. This revelation painted a much darker picture than the one fans see on social media, moving past the usual family bickering and into serious allegations about his behavior at home. Despite Boosie's reputation for keeping it real and being a vocal leader in his community, these claims suggest a massive gap between his public image and his private reality. It's another instance where a powerful figure's family life contradicts their public persona, showing that even the most outspoken icons can have deeply troubled relationships once the cameras are off.
You just don't be caring. You just don't care about my feelings.
We're breaking down 10 rappers who were completely exposed by their own children, and we're starting with one of the most high-profile fallouts: 50 Cent and Marquise Jackson. 50 Cent built his entire legacy on surviving 9 bullets and mastering the business of hip-hop. But according to his oldest son Marquise, Curtis has one major flaw: being a father. Curtis Jackson and Shaniqua Tompkins welcomed Marquise back in October 1997. And in the beginning, 50 was actually a hands-on parent. Marquise even described his dad as a superhero in those early years, someone who was famous on TV but still made time to be present. However, as the fame grew and the relationship with Shaniqua fell apart, the bond between father and son began to shatter. Their split around 2007 led to a messy, years-long custody battle where the court eventually ordered Curtis to pay $6,700 a month in child support. Then, things took a dark turn with leaked text messages. When Marquise was only 16, screenshots surfaced of his father telling him to delete his number, claiming he no longer had a son, and even demanding paternity tests after over a decade of raising him. Marquise later said that was the day his heart truly broke. The feud reached a new low in 2018, when Marquise posted a photo with one of 50's rivals. Curtis responded in the comments, stating he wouldn't have a bad day if both of them were hit by a bus. He eventually tried to walk it back, claiming he had no ill will, but the public damage was already done. By the time Marquise turned 25, he was on Instagram Live complaining that the monthly child support wasn't enough to sustain a lifestyle in New York City, but 50 Cent wasn't interested in hearing any of it.
25 years old, why are you still talking about child support?
That's the 50 Cent the world knows, completely unfiltered. But despite the hostility, Marquise seemed desperate for closure. He even went as far as publicly offering to pay his father for a single day of his time, just so they could sit down and talk. It was a clear sign that while 50 had moved on, his son was still looking for the relationship he lost, even if he had to buy it. Yet, even with that public olive branch, the gap between them remained as wide as ever.
I don't even know if a sit down can actually restore the situation.
However, Curtis remained unmoved, later telling Charlemagne that the relationship simply can't be fixed anymore. To him, the bond is officially beyond repair, signaling that he has closed that chapter for good. Even with his son's public attempts to reconcile, 50 made it clear that some bridges are burned too badly to be rebuilt.
No, he doesn't. See, Charlamagne, you would call me. You don't call TMZ to say you want to sit down.
Marquise eventually shared his own message on Instagram, sounding like someone who had finally come to terms with the reality of the situation. It was a moment of clarity where he seemed to accept that the relationship he'd been holding on to just wasn't going to happen. After years of back and forth and public pleas, it felt like he was finally closing the door on the hope of a reconciliation.
You thought you were special. You really thought you were special.
50 Cent has made it clear that he plans to leave his entire empire to his younger son, Sire. Meanwhile, Marquise maintains that he only ever wanted a father, not the inheritance. 15 years into this standoff, neither side has backed down an inch. Next up is Ghostface Killah and his son Infinite Coles. As a member of the Wu-Tang Clan, Ghostface built a legendary career on raw emotion and street poetry. However, for over a decade, Infinite has been telling a different story, claiming that the man who taught the world how to feel couldn't find any empathy for his own son. Infinite, who is openly gay, is a multi-talented artist whose work blends hip-hop, R&B, and house music, drawing inspiration from icons like Brandy and Whitney Houston. According to Infinite, the relationship shifted as he began to embrace his true identity. He explained that as he grew older, his father saw parts of him he didn't approve of and simply checked out. In May 2023, Infinite took to Instagram to label Ghostface the full definition of a deadbeat. He alleged that his father left him to stay in a shelter during the pandemic and remained distant while staying involved with his other siblings. Infinite stated he was done staying silent just to protect his father's reputation. By late 2025, Infinite channeled that pain into his music, releasing his debut album, Sweet Face Killa, on December 5th. The project was led by the double single Sweet Face Killa and Dad and I, where he reclaimed a slur used against him for the album's title. The lyrics in Dad and I are incredibly blunt, referencing his father telling him he wasn't living right and demanding he man up for wearing makeup. Infinite insists this isn't a diss track or a play for clout. He pointed to Ghostface's own classic, All That I Got Is You, noting that his father became a legend by sharing his personal struggles. Infinite says he is simply following that lead by telling his own truth. He expressed that while his father doesn't have to agree with his lifestyle, he should still love him as a son. Weighing in on the rift, comedian Aries Spears noted that he understands the gritty New York environment Ghostface came from, suggesting that certain lifestyles are still a difficult pill to swallow in that specific culture.
But Ghost just seems like such a street dude that certain things just ain't gonna fly with him.
He spoke candidly about the reality that some fathers simply aren't equipped to handle certain situations, regardless of how much times have changed. It was a blunt assessment of the generational and cultural divide, acknowledging that for some parents their upbringing creates a barrier they just can't seem to break through. No matter the era, that disconnect remains a harsh reality for many families in the spotlight.
And everybody ain't gonna be Magic Johnson and be supportive.
Despite everything, Infinite says he still offers his father grace and even finds himself worrying about his well-being. He's been open about the fact that his uncle Riza, who is his actual blood relative on his mother's side, has stepped up to support him where his father didn't. For his part, Ghostface has remained completely silent on the matter publicly. As it stands, there's no sign of a reconciliation. There is only the music on one side and silence on the other. Next up are Benzino and Coily Ray. Benzino has worn many hats: Boston rapper, magazine mogul, and reality TV star. But to his daughter, Coily Ray, he was simply a man who couldn't let her succeed without trying to overshadow her. Coy exploded onto the scene in the early 2020s with hits like Twin 'Em, No More Parties, and Players, earning a Grammy nomination and solidifying herself as a major new voice in hip-hop. However, while her career was reaching new heights, her father was constantly online airing out his frustrations. Coy has maintained for years that their relationship was unstable and that her mother was the one truly holding the family together while Benzino lived a separate life. In May 2024, Coy made her stance clear. She stated she wanted absolutely nothing to do with him, noting they hadn't spoken in over a year and emphasizing that being related by blood doesn't automatically make you family. The breaking point came when Benzino appeared on a podcast defending R. Kelly and suggesting he deserved a second chance, prompting Coy to distance herself completely. Earlier that year, right as she was at the top of the charts, Benzino was once again online taking shots at her. The tension got so bad that Coy actually pulled her car over to go live on social media, her voice cracking with emotion as she addressed the situation.
Instead of being a father and just supporting from that side, you still want to be bitter.
She didn't hold back, explaining that the only time her father ever reached out was when he needed something to boost his own career. She made it clear that his interest in her seemed purely transactional, only surfacing when there was something in it for him. To her, it felt like he was trying to use her hard-earned momentum to fuel his own relevance, rather than reaching out as a parent who actually cared.
Trying to get me to go on Growing Up Hip Hop told me that they wasn't gonna let you on it if it wasn't for me.
Benzino, on the other hand, insisted that hearing his daughter speak about him in that way was absolutely devastating. He claimed the public fallout and her harsh words left him deeply hurt, maintaining that the situation wasn't as one-sided as she made it seem. Despite his defense, the emotional gap between them only seemed to widen as the accusations continued to play out in the spotlight.
When everything happened, all the the stuff she said on the internet, man, it tore a hole in my heart.
He explained that he was accustomed to his other children showing him respect, so being publicly called out by his daughter hit him especially hard. He blamed the strained relationship on her mother and various outside influences, even pointing out that he was once a single father in Atlanta and expressing regret that their issues were being aired on social media. Benzino also mentioned that he represents his late mother's legacy and couldn't stand the idea of people viewing him as a bad father. However, the public wasn't buying it. His comment sections quickly became a focal point for deadbeat dad accusations. Benzino has admitted that he sometimes reacts too aggressively, leading to him being banned from several platforms. By late 2025, he was visibly emotional in interviews, expressing hope that his daughter would eventually return to him, especially now that she has become a mother herself. For her part, McCoy has remained strictly focused on her career and her child. As it stands, the two are still not on speaking terms. Next on the list is Boosie Badazz and Poison Ivy. Boosie is an artist who built his entire career on heart and struggle, telling stories that resonated far beyond Baton Rouge. But despite rapping about the love he has for his children, he has faced more backlash than almost anyone for his public parenting style. Boosie has 9 children with several different mothers and has made fatherhood a central part of his personal brand. He frequently posts about them, gifting them cars for their 16th birthdays and discussing them in every interview. However, the way he speaks about them is often where the controversy begins. In 2017, he posted a birthday message for his son, Tootie Raw, that many felt crossed a major line. 3 years later, in May 2020, he sparked outrage during a live stream by claiming he had paid an adult woman to perform sexual acts on his son and nephew when they were only 12 and 13. He framed this as teaching them how to be men. But the internet reacted with horror, calling for CPS involvement and accusing him of endangering his own children. The most significant pushback, however, came from his own family. His oldest daughter, Iviona, known as Poison Ivy, is openly gay. For years, Boosie has used his platform in various podcasts to criticize her sexuality, even telling Young Miami that he viewed her as contaminating her younger siblings. In 2024, Ivy finally went live to address the situation. She wasn't shouting, she just sounded exhausted.
I really don't even know where to start for real, because this ain't even my character.
She broke down the reality of their relationship, highlighting how he would go from one interview to the next discussing her sexuality publicly, yet never once bothered to have a real conversation with her face-to-face. According to Ivy, the lessons he instilled in her during her upbringing weren't centered on faith or finding peace. Instead, they were strictly about the hustle and making sure nobody ever took advantage of her. It was a pointed critique, suggesting that the very toughness he raised her with was exactly what she was now using to stand up to him.
You just don't be caring, you just don't care about my feelings.
She explained that his reputation was actually causing her to miss out on professional opportunities, claiming that other artists were often too intimidated to work with her because of him. Her main request was simple. She wanted him to use his massive platform to promote her music with the same energy he used to criticize her personal life. Boosie eventually issued an apology and showed some support for her online, but by then, the fallout had already become a matter of public record. This wasn't his only public family dispute. Boosie also had a major falling out with another one of his teenage daughters, whom he accused of disrespecting him while testifying on a witness stand. In response, he repossessed the brand new Mercedes he had gifted her, stating that the disrespect was a price far higher than the car's value. While Boosie continues to document his life, his children continue to highlight the fractures within the family. Next is T.I. and Deja Harris. T.I. is a Southern rap legend who helped pioneer the trap genre. But in 2019, an admission on a podcast turned his daughter's world upside down. During an appearance on Ladies Like Us, Tip mentioned that he accompanied his then 18-year-old daughter Deja to her annual gynecologist appointments to ensure her hymen was still intact. He framed it as protective parenting, claiming he was simply shielding her from the wrong influences. The backlash was immediate and intense. Medical professionals and organizations like Planned Parenthood spoke out, clarifying that such checks are not a reliable measure of anything and are actually harmful practices. The controversy even prompted New York lawmakers to discuss banning virginity testing. Critics labeled his behavior as controlling and invasive, noting it was based on medical misinformation. T.I. later appeared on Red Table Talk to address the situation, claiming his words were taken out of context and that he never actually entered the exam room. He apologized to Deja for making her private life public, but a televised apology didn't necessarily fix things behind the scenes. Months later, on the family's reality show, Deja finally shared her perspective. While on a trip to Mexico with her stepmother, Tiny, she appeared visibly drained as Tiny broke the news that Tip still didn't believe he had done anything wrong.
I had a talk with him and he seems to think that he didn't do anything wrong, so...
Deja had remained silent throughout the media firestorm, but on that beach, she finally let her guard down. She expressed a level of hurt and frustration that goes far beyond catchy headlines or social media trends, revealing the deep personal toll the situation had taken on her.
Since the news broke, my dad and I haven't spoken. I just feel like he should be reaching out to me about all of this.
She shared with the cameras that she felt completely uncomfortable, revealing that her heart sank the moment she heard about the podcast. She also disclosed that those gynecologist visits with her father present had been a routine since she was just 14 or 15 years old, noting that as a minor, she didn't feel she had the power to refuse. Now in her mid-20s, Deja is a student at Clark Atlanta University studying speech communications and rhetoric. In April 2026, she crossed into Delta Sigma Theta, taking the line name Precious Air as a tribute to her late aunt. She has remained transparent about her struggles with depression and anxiety, which she's dealt with since age 11, and now uses her platform, The Safe Space, to advocate for mental health. While Tip and Deja have publicly moved past the worst of the controversy, the incident remains a stark example of how a single podcast clip can damage a father-daughter bond in a way that no apology video can truly repair. Next on the list is Lil Wayne and his children. Lil Wayne famously dropped the D from his birth name, Dwayne, for a specific reason. The man responsible for launching more careers than most record labels grew up without his own father, and that lingering pain still surfaces whenever he discusses it in interviews. Years ago, he sat down and explained that decision with total bluntness.
I dropped the D because I'm a junior. My father's living, and he's not in my life.
That is the core of who Wayne is, a man striving to be the father he never had while managing one of the most demanding careers in music history. He has 4 children with 4 different women, all born during the height of his commercial dominance. His eldest, Regina Carter, was born in 1998 to his high school sweetheart, Toya Johnson. A decade later, in 2008, his first son, Dwayne Carter III, was born to Sarah Vivon. The following year, 2009, he welcomed 2 more sons, Cameron Carter with actress Lauren London in September, and Neil Carter with singer Nivea in November. While Wayne was busy releasing era-defining mixtapes, his children were navigating classrooms where their last name was a major headline. In December 2025, Regina hosted her brothers on her podcast Airtime for a Christmas special, where they got honest about life in the spotlight. Cameron admitted that school was difficult early on because kids would identify him as Wayne's son before he even had a chance to introduce himself, making it hard to form genuine friendships. Dwayne III echoed that sentiment, noting that his private school environment was filled with nosy peers constantly asking questions. Regina, however, took a different approach, fully embracing her identity as Lil Wayne's daughter. Still, she made sure to give her brothers the space to share their own unique experiences. She also defended her father, mentioning that he texts every day and sets a high standard for being present, despite his chaotic schedule. Wayne has invested his money, time, and advice into his family, but the reality of raising 4 children across 4 different households during his peak years meant he couldn't be everywhere at once. He has openly called his own father the most irresponsible person he's ever known, and even now, the subject can move him to tears. While critics often label him a deadbeat due to his complicated family structure, his children tell a more nuanced story of a father who showed up in his own way. Next on the list is Future and his growing family tree. Future built his legacy on cold-hearted lyrics and a sound that turned personal pain into global hits. Behind the scenes, his family life is massive, larger than some independent labels, and rumors about his parenting have followed him for years. According to his own interviews and public records, he has at least 7 children, though recent legal filings suggest that number is higher. His children include Jacoby, born in 2002 to Jessica Smith; London, born in 2009 to India J; Prince, born around 2012 to Brittany Mealy; Future Zahir, born in 2014 to Shway Chavis, among others. Most recently, in April 2026, a Florida woman named Eloise Sanchez filed a paternity suit claiming Future is the father of her 9-year-old son, Cash. The receipts are scattered across the internet for anyone to find. Brittany Mealy has gone public with claims that Future went a long stretch without seeing their son. Eliza Rain and Cindy Parker have aired out their grievances as well. Adding to the fire, reports of leaked jail calls from Young Thug around 2025 surfaced, where Thugger reportedly called out his friend for prioritizing a fast lifestyle over his own children. Online, the deadbeat label stuck, even though Future has been clear in court that he fulfills his financial obligations. The tension lies in the massive gap between paying child support and active parenting. Future has argued in interviews that picking one mother would only hurt the others, and that he never planned on a traditional family structure. He's made public gestures like shouting out the mothers on Mother's Day or posting Future Zahir on Instagram. But the reality of multiple homes and siblings who barely know one another has created a perception he hasn't moved to fix. The contrast became even sharper through Ciara, who built a new family with Russell Wilson. Seeing Russell coaching games and being present on every red carpet while Future remained focused on the studio and the road led the internet to do its own math. Future hasn't gone on an apology tour. He keeps stacking features and moving forward. Now, with some of his children entering their teens, they are growing up in a world where their father's name is simultaneously on the music charts and in court files. Next on the list is Uncle Luke and Lucretia Campbell. Uncle Luke is Miami royalty, the man who pioneered bass music, led 2 Live Crew, and fought for hip-hop's right to free speech all the way to the Supreme Court. He changed the law, but his oldest daughter changed the public's perception of him as a father. In June 2010, at 18 years old, Lucretia Cree Campbell posted a series of YouTube videos labeling her father a deadbeat. She claimed he had several children, but only truly acknowledged the son he had with his wife at the time. She spoke about the lack of fatherly attention she received growing up, and her message was soon co-signed by an older sister who also called for Luke to step up for his other kids. The videos went viral, landing Luke on nearly every worst fathers in rap list that year. Luke eventually went on Houston radio to defend himself, but his defense was controversial. He admitted to actively raising only one of his children, describing his other situations essentially as sperm donations. He warned young men to use protection to avoid bitter mothers and angry kids, claiming the resentment was fueled by women from his past. The public, however, wasn't moved by the explanation, seeing it as a refusal to take accountability for the children he helped bring into the world. The same Luke who once made entire households uncomfortable on the radio now sounded like a typical father explaining away his absence by blaming his exes. Public court records only added fuel to the fire, showing past arrests for falling behind on child support. Years later, on Growing Up Hip Hop, Lucretia and Luke finally sat down on camera to attempt a reconciliation. The conversation fluctuated between warmth and heavy tension, while another daughter, Lucretia, eventually went public with her own perspective on the family dynamic. By a 2025 livestream, Luke claimed he had paid out over $2.7 million in child support across all his children, a number he said climbed past $3 million when including legal fees. Despite the financial output, he lamented that his children still rarely call him on holidays, noting that only one reached out for Father's Day. He maintained his stance that their mothers had turned them against him. It's one of the oldest stories on this list. Following a familiar script, money is provided, presence is missed, and the children eventually use their own platforms to tell the world how they feel. Next is Birdman and his family. As the co-founder of Cash Money Records, Birdman is the man behind the Burr ad-lib and the mogul who stood beside Lil Wayne for 2 decades, claiming him as his son whenever the cameras were rolling. But while the world watched that high-profile bond, Birdman's biological children were living a much quieter reality. He has 2 acknowledged biological children with a woman named Tia Bryan Jr., born in 1997, and Bria, born in 1998. While there have been public flashes of his fatherhood, like a reported $1 million gift for Bryan Jr., his biological kids remained in the background compared to the massive visibility he gave Wayne. The father-son narrative with Wayne became legendary for a reason. Wayne met Birdman as a young child, and Birdman leaned into the role, famously kissing him on the lips and releasing the album Like Father, Like Son. For Wayne, whose biological father left early, the bond was real, until the business soured. When Wayne sued Cash Money in the mid-2010s over withheld money and masters, the family framing crumbled in court. Wayne eventually went on record saying his last name ain't Williams, and that he was too old for fake friends. Though they've since patched things up professionally, the public fallout changed how people viewed Birdman's version of family. Critics often point to the stark contrast. Birdman built a public empire and a family out of his artists, yet his actual son and daughter were rarely part of the narrative. Birdman himself remained stoic, once stating in an interview that he would never show emotion because he's a man. His own childhood, losing his mother at 5 and rotating through foster care and living with an uncle, likely wired him for the hardened, business-first approach he took toward fatherhood. His father was killed in a 1996 car crash, and his sister Tamara died in another accident in 2006. Stepping into parental roles for his younger family members early in life, Birdman's model of family was forged in the fire of hustle and survival rather than bedtime stories. He didn't land on worst father lists because of public feuds or internet shouting matches. He landed there because of the silence. The public saw a glaring contrast between the surrogate son who brought in platinum plaques and his biological children whose names most fans didn't even know. Next on the list is NLE Choppa and his co-parents. The Memphis native rose to fame at 16 and became a father at 18, attempting to navigate adulthood and parenting while the world watched. By 2025, the mothers of both of his children were on social media claiming his public persona didn't match his private actions. Choppa has 2 children, his daughter Clover, born in 2020 to his ex Mariah, and his son Chosen, born in 2023 to his ex Marissa Dane. Before Chosen was born, Marissa and Choppa faced the heartbreak of losing a son, 7, to a miscarriage in 2022. By mid-2025, a custody battle between Choppa and Marissa became public and messy. Marissa alleged that he rarely saw their son despite his legal filings and accused him of neglect during visits, even claiming he suggested the infant didn't need 3 meals a day. Mariah eventually joined the conversation, backing Marissa's claims and describing a pattern of neglect. Choppa didn't stay quiet. He countered by posting videos of himself caring for his daughter and received public support from his mother, Angela, who defended his parenting. Choppa dismissed the allegations as cap, and by early 2026, reports surfaced that he had secured a favorable custody ruling and that official investigations had addressed the previous claims. During this turmoil, Choppa became engaged to singer Erica Raven in late 2025, speaking openly about their future together. He frequently discusses his love for his kids but also his belief in discipline, such as the time he made his children do manual labor as a consequence for acting up. He credits fatherhood with sparking his spiritual journey, but his story highlights the immense pressure on a young artist trying to balance a massive career, multiple co-parenting relationships, and a public engagement, all while still growing up himself. With 2 mothers speaking out and Choppa firing back, the children remain at the center of a story that is still being written in real time. The lyrics in Youngboy's leaked track, Keeping It True, seem to reflect this exact situation. In the song, he describes how a brother stayed loyal and kept quiet after a rival was killed during the night, despite not being the one who actually pulled the trigger. Even G-Money's own mother shared her doubts on social media following Pap's guilty plea, stating she didn't believe he was the one responsible for her son's death. This leaves the first murder linked to Youngboy and his associates completely unsettled. Not only has G-Money's family been denied real justice, but it suggests that the actual NBA enforcer responsible for the hit could still be out there standing behind Youngboy on stage and in the streets, ready to strike again.